Welcome, everyone, to our candidate forum tonight, featuring all of the candidates for San Jose City Council District 3. My name is Carol Watts, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of San Jose, Santa Clara. This forum is produced by our league and co-sponsored by the Japantown Neighborhood Association and the Hensley Historic District Neighborhood Association. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 when women finally obtained the right to vote. And believe me, this big change took a long time. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization of women and men established to promote informed and active participation in government. We encourage members and the public to vote, pay attention to the actions of governmental bodies like the City Council, and even to run for political office. The League never supports nor opposes any candidate or political party. We divide our work into two distinct parts. Voter service, which is what we're doing tonight by offering you a chance to watch and listen to candidates answer questions. Our second part is advocacy. While we never will say vote for or against candidate X, after careful study and evaluation, we sometimes take a stand on legislation or ballot measures. The League is a strong grassroots organization. Our members are members not only of the local league, but also members of the LWV Bay Area, the League of Women Voters of California, and our National League of Women Voters. There are 5 leagues in Santa Clara County, each supporting specific cities or towns. My guess is that all of you are residents of San Jose, so we heartily welcome you to join our organization. You can join online, or you can find and print a form online. The form, you find it online, but you can print it out and then fill it out and mail it to us. And on that form, you can choose to pay as little or as much as fits your budget. In our voter service function, we hold candidates forums like tonight. And in the upcoming June election, there are a few local ballot measures. And we are in the process of preparing, and we will publish a balanced and fair analysis of some of those measures to help you decide what you think about them. There are no state propositions in June. We also do voter registration in various locations, including schools, libraries, farmers markets, and this year, and even some health facilities. Very importantly, we work hard to produce a website called Voter's Edge. Voter's Edge is easy for you. You just enter your street address and your zip code, and you will get a list of all of the contests on your ballot. Our Voter's Edge volunteers are now contacting all candidates and asking them to fill out information about themselves and their candidacy. You can easily see their top priorities, their experience, and information about their policy preferences. What might they do if they get elected? Almost all the candidates here tonight have already provided this information to Voter's Edge, so you can go there and find more about them. And now I want to introduce Rosaline Sish. She will moderate tonight's forum. Rosaline, over to you.
Thank you, Carol, and it's my pleasure to be your moderator this evening. Our agenda is on the board there. Tonight's format includes the first 30-second introduction by each candidate, followed by the candidate's responses, and everyone responds to every question. These questions have all been submitted to us by the audience. They were sent in and then they were reviewed by representatives from the League and also from our community organizations that are sponsoring this evening. Then the candidates will have a group of questions, and each one will have a minute to answer, or up to a minute, and we will have a timer who lets us know when we get close to that minute. There's also an opportunity for rebuttal, and the rebuttal card will be issued as a candidate requests it. They have 30 seconds for that. If they don't use the rebuttal during the actual questioning time, they may add it on to their ending with 1 minute. So it can be 1 minute and 30 seconds if they'd like. And now I'd like to have all of the candidates join me and open up their videos, and so we can meet you. Yes, hi. Great to have all of you here this evening. It's just marvelous. And you are coming from a vibrant part of our city. So very important. And we're so pleased that all of you are running this evening. So now I'd like to introduce you, and then we will get started. And these are our candidates for the San Jose City Council, District 3. And we have, and I'm not going to do it alphabetically, Irene Smith, and we have Omar Torres, and we have Elizabeth Chin Hale, and we have Joanna, and I wrote it down, Joanna, so I wouldn't blow it, but it's Rush, or no.
Wow. Like, wow.
Wow. I am so sorry. Oh, there it is. I do have it written down, Rao. Anyway, I beg your pardon on that. And then Ivan Torres, and we're so happy to have each of you. And we drew a card before we started, and Omar got the call to go first, introducing himself, and then each of you will follow. Thank you, Omar.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Omar Torres, and I started organizing in my neighborhood, the Guadalupe, Washington neighborhood, when a fatal shooting occurred. Like many on this call, I work with our neighborhood association to turn concerns into real solutions: open spaces, beautification days, traffic calming measures, after school programs, new youth centers, and libraries. I'm the only candidate with over 25 years experience organizing for cleaner and safer neighborhoods. I didn't do this alone. We did it together.
Elizabeth, may we hear from you?
Thank you for having me here. My name is Elizabeth Chin Hale. I'm the true independent candidate in this race, and as such, I can be the transformative leader that San Jose requires today. I also come with a spirit of community activity, and consistent with my immigrant background, I will put emphasis on education, economic development. I believe these are two pillars which will the foundation to implement the social changes that we'll discuss later tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna?
I'm a working mom with 3 small kids who have their entire childhoods ahead of them in District 3. I want a clean, safe, and thriving San Jose for my kids and my community. I've spent the last 15 years of my career as a professional negotiator, bringing people and organizations together to solve complicated problems. I'm the only candidate with the proven skills and experience to activate our leaders and get everyone to start pulling in the same direction to achieve our shared goals.
Thank you. Ivan?
Hi, my name is Ivan Torres. I'm a lifelong resident of San Jose and a lifelong resident of District 3. I am an organizer and I am a Stanford healthcare worker. So I just want to quickly acknowledge what's going on with Stanford right now. I just want to express my support to all the nurses and the healthcare workers who are on strike fighting for dignity and respect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivan. And Irene?
Good evening. As I walk through our downtown, there is an unmistakable spirit of hope. Our neighbors are abundantly ready for immediate change. So tonight, who's ready to break from the past and who's going to continue the status quo? With my experience as a small business owner, a housing provider, a mental health professional, and a pro tem judge, we can get this change together.
Thank you, Irene.
Mm-hmm.
The first question that we will address is, give a specific example of a local cause or issue that you have championed in opposition or in working for prior to running for office? How did you participate and what was the outcome? And for this question, we will start with Ivan.
Sure. Before running for office, I've been a huge advocate for education. Right now, one of my policy platforms is tuition-free community college as one of the methods that we take to combat economic inequality in the city of San Jose.
And Irene, would you go next, please?
So I've lived in downtown D3 for 33 years and have been part of a tremendously large moms group. And I can tell you one of the most recent things that we did, I had a mom reach out to me recently saying, it was a couple of years ago, saying, you know, we just have to do something about the fires and the folks who are, you know, being abandoned on the creek sides. So she and I and about 2 other moms got together and we formed the Defenders of Clean Air Equality. And we went through an enormous amount of work to try and get the water district, the water board, the California Air Quality, all these different organizations from Santa Clara County, the district attorney, all working together to try and help these folks on the creeks and stop the fires, because Stanford came out with a study and said that children in downtown are suffering irrevocable IQ damage as a result of this air quality.
Elizabeth?
Hi, I've been downtown for more than a decade, and I was not an elected official here, but I was appointed to a position on appeals hearing board. But I think my most proud achievement is leading the San Jose Downtown Resident Association. We started back in the late 1990s, and when I joined, it was primarily a social club. I kind of pioneered the public forum through which I engage and inform the downtown residents. So we do a variety of issues: redistricting, transportation, traffic, the billboards. And more recently, I also pioneered the Residents Corner at our board meeting. So our first project was bringing a group of elderly, a senior center in downtown, all of Asian descent, who were being treated as victims of hate crime. And I'm very proud of what I've done for the association.
Gotta stop doing that. Ivan?
Oh, I think I answered already.
Oh, that's right. I beg your pardon. Omar?
Yes, thank you so much.
That's right.
So my passion is education, and I've served on a couple school boards already. So I've sat behind a dais, pushing for better schools, pushing for better curriculum, pushing for the increase of graduation rates for our students, especially those who are that are underserved. But I think one of my most important successes is making sure that we had testing locations and vaccination clinics as Deputy Chief of Staff for Councilmember Magdalena Carrasco. As many of you know, COVID-19 decimated our Latino community, and we felt the impacts in our most underserved essential workers, and we pushed hard for vaccine clinics and testing locations.
Thank you. Joanne?
Thank you. I'm passionate about cleaning up our public spaces. I volunteered with the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy to do just that in our backyard. I live right next to the Guadalupe River Park. It's a great public asset. And cleanup is a great way to keep our kids involved in giving back as well. I've brought my my toddlers out with me to pick up trash and make sure our spaces are as clean and as bright as they can be. This is an environmental effort. It's also a humanitarian effort. I've watched in just a few hours how a cleanup can be truly transformative, not just for the space, but for the people who might be living in it. This is why I've been endorsed by every woman on the Water District Board, and why I've been endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters.
I think I'm just going to leave myself on. I'm having trouble. Anyway, thank you so much for that, your responses to that question. Very informative for our viewers. The next question I'd like you to address: do you use public transportation regularly, or how can we improve public transportation through collaboration with VTA and the upcoming BART stations in downtown? And for this one, we will start with Irene.
Well, I worked as a senior manager in finance at IBM, and I worked on budgets up to $1 million. And I relish big projects like transportation to manage these budgets and maximize the benefits of these complex projects. There's nothing more complex than our transportation. And the future of our public transportation is in smart cars and smart roads, flexible buses and bikes and scooters and pedestrian activity. Our transportation must be in alignment with safety and accident prevention. And we must manage BART. The extension has to stay within budget, and right now it doesn't look good. We need to start redesigning our roadways now to anticipate what our city is going to look like in the future.
Thank you. And Omar, your response?
Yes, thank you so much. I am a product of public transportation. So was my family. We took it to the mall, we took it to the flea market, we took it, you name it. I took it to school every single day after I graduated from Washington Elementary School. So to Hoover, to San Jose City College, to attending San Jose State, I took public transportation. I always made sure that I was doing my part helping the environment. And just a little tidbit, I did raise my hand for the rebuttal, but I too have been endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters as well. But as a City Hall employee, I make sure to work with VTA to expand services into our east side, especially that long overdue Eastridge light rail line that our east side truly deserves. And so when it comes to public transportation, I'm going to make sure it's accessible to our most underserved communities.
Thank you. And Joanne?
Thank you. I've lived in big cities my entire adult life and benefited from public transportation everywhere I've lived. We specifically moved to our neighborhood in the Vendome because we had easy access to VTA. It's just literally three doors down from us to get to Dearborn, so that we could travel around the Bay Area as easily and with as little impact to the environment as possible. We've managed to be a single car household until baby number 3 arrived just recently, and we had to be able to fit 3 car seats in one vehicle. So I really appreciate public transportation, and note that really every great city in the world has a great public transportation system, and we want to make sure that our kids grow up knowing how to navigate that kind of system. To improve the VTA, I think we really do need to focus on security on our VTA. That can be enabled through data, and I have drafted the partnerships that make cities great with great public transportation.
Thank you. Ivan?
So definitely public transportation, like Omar, has been a huge part of my life. I think for lower income individuals as well, public transportation is key. I still use public transportation. I use the Caltrain to get to Stanford on a regular basis. So it's still very much part of my life. I think that it definitely serves a huge purpose. And I think that we can definitely prioritize making public transportation a primary means of transportation.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yeah, like Omar and Ivan, as an immigrant, bus was my lifeline. I took bus to school every day when I was in high school. As I grew up, as I moved to San Jose, I started taking VTA light rail to the airport, which is not a direct connection that we could have. I know they're developing airport connector, but we are blessed to be living in downtown. We have more options than anyone else. As for the BART extension 2, I've been a community working member as part of San Jose Downtown Resident Association. I've done extensive work on commenting from the technical aspect when they were trying to decide between where to set the entrances, the double bore versus single bore, to the design of the 3 stations. That's going to be in District 3, and Therodon's being districted out. So I have great hope. I think transportation could be a part of solution for housing. As the Bay Area cities are connected through BART, that's going to be a game changer. A lot more people will be able to live and work in San Jose.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our next question is, our city needs a park and that we could be very proud of. What would you do to clean up the Guadalupe River Park? How would you create an environment where a broader section of people feel safe while enjoying the park? And for this one, we'll start with Joanna.
Thank you so much. So homelessness is a big obstacle to our broader enjoyment of public spaces. And I think everyone really feels that we want to make sure our public spaces are accessible and usable for the broader community. We also want to make sure that our most vulnerable neighbors have dignified housing and are getting the care and the services that we need. So we really do need a short-term solution and a long-term solution here. In the short term, we have to make better use of the resources that we already have. It should be as easy for an advocate to book a shelter bed as it is to book an Airbnb, and really work with folks who are on the ground into getting into a dignified shelter. We have to build more shelter faster. We have to make sure that there are places for people to receive the services that they need. Mayor Liccardo and a coalition of big city mayors just called for an additional $3 billion to continue funding their rapid build modular units.
Very much. Ivan, could we have your response now?
Sure. So, I mean, one is implementing more garbage pickup days. That's one. Two is definitely making sure that the unhoused at the parks are housed. We have to implement public housing, social housing for these individuals. You know, I live right by St. James Park, and during the day it's okay, but once nightfall comes, I would not recommend anyone go by there. This is something that is complex and is going to take time, but I think if we all come together, we can definitely make changes.
Thank you, Ivan. Elizabeth?
I will stay with the Guadalupe Park because that was your question. I also want to talk about St. James Park, which is the heart and soul of downtown activities. Unfortunately, it's in the current situation. So I understand the city is undertaking a large number of measures, such as building tiny home in the parking lot E behind the police station to house these. I applaud the city for doing that. And I've spoken to city staff, and I understand when they do this kind of abatement, they don't really go out and just displace people. They try to find solutions, such as the 2014 jungle. I heard statistical information that 280 people were placed with permanent housing, rapid rehousing, or vouchers. So I think that's how we can clean up a park. And so the public, the rest of us can enjoy that too. With respect to St. James Park, we're doing, and I hope all the neighborhood association will do that, we had to start activating by having more activities there. So it becomes a welcoming and gathering place for all the residents.
Thank you very much. Irene?
Thank you. To me, that we've abandoned our unhoused neighbors, and it's unconscionable. But I'm excited and really hopeful that my three-pronged plan can bring relief to all of us so that families can enjoy the parks and everyone can enjoy the parks. So the first part of the plan is with the incremental ladder of housing success. It's a step-by-step plan to help folks move from to destination locations and help provide the services while we're waiting for the housing to be built. We're hoping that it's a temporary situation so that we do have tents and structures, that we work our way out of business within 6 to 8 years. But this allows us that 5-year period to get that housing to actually be built. Thank you.
Thank you. And Omar, your remarks?
We definitely need short-term and obviously long-term solutions to make sure that folks feel safe in our trails. I'm a runner, and unfortunately, I no longer run through our trails. I run through our neighborhoods because I run alone. But so I can imagine our families feeling unsafe in our public trails. However, we need to make sure that we take care of our unhoused with dignity. I fully support our short-term solutions of sanctioned encampments and obviously tiny homes. That's extremely important. When it comes to long-term, we need to continue to collaborate with our county and the Valley Water District to provide services for our unhoused because they need a place to live. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. I've made sure, working as a city staffer, that we've had clean parks in both the east side and downtown.
Thank you very much. Our next question is a short one, but important. How would you increase and sustain live performing arts in San Jose? And for this one, we will start with Elizabeth.
Well, we have a few kind of vibrant downtown venues, and I'm sure they're elsewhere in District 3. For example, we have the Three Below. They do a variety of live shows, movies, and kind of sing-along type of thing. So we have a lot of these institutions. And I think as a neighborhood board, we try to advocate, we try to advertise, and I hope the city and the county will continue to provide grants and teach them how to apply for grants. Because I think, well, I just spoke to Three Below recently, they know how to navigate the grant system. A lot of smaller theaters and maybe individual artists may not know. And so I think we need to make a resource available. And the city should continue to fund the big festivals here, the CineQuest, the Jazz Festival. I think they all contribute to the art atmosphere to San Jose.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's have, oh gosh, Joanna.
Hi, thank you so much. So this question is actually near and dear to my heart. I grew up in the theater scene in San Jose. When I was a kid, I participated in children's musical theater, and back then it was called Civic Light Opera. This was a really big part of my life, theater on San Pedro Square. Really, really big part of my life and very close to my heart. Our theater and art scene in San Jose is really intrinsic to our personhood, really, as a city. And it really helps to generate revenues so dearly needed in our downtown core. It attracts business tourism. It brings people to our restaurants. It brings people to our storefronts and shops. So it's really important that we keep this scene vital. There is a memo right now going around City Council to allocate what was previously allocated TOT back into our art scene. I fully support this memo and this proposal, and I would continue to champion efforts of that nature to make sure that our art scene remains robust and is the economic driver we need it to be.
Thank you so much. Omar.
This issue is also near and dear to my heart because revitalizing downtown San Jose begins with our arts. As we recover from post-COVID-19 and folks want to come out, we need to make sure that our arts groups and art productions are showcasing the diversity and culture of our beautiful city of San Jose. I have grown up around many artists, from visual to performing arts. I went to Lincoln, but you don't want to hear me sing. And we need to make sure that they have enough resources and fundings to be in our downtown. Also, as a city staffer, I've worked with my member on the city council to push for a 1% charge when we're building new development in the city of San Jose to go into an arts fund, because we need to make sure that our hotels are being filled and our small businesses are supported.
Thank you. Ivan?
Yes, it's definitely about supporting creative spaces and ensuring that people have a creative outlet. So I would definitely be open to funding and just promoting the arts all around downtown San Jose. And I think that, murals are so, they're very representative, but they're also just kind of a thing of pride for a lot of people, and people enjoy it, people love to see it, and I think it's great.
Thank you. And let's see, Irene.
Thank you. I think our art is part of our hope, the part of us that allows San Jose downtown to be the gem that it should be. When we see all of the murals that are around and we have an opportunity to enjoy St. James Park with all of the plans that they have for St. James Park, I think that we can continue that and also focus on our local artists. I know a lot of local artists that are struggling with housing or with getting their particular art being seen. So I think that we can find ways to reach out to those folks and include it as part of our hope for downtown.
Thank you, Irene. Our next question is, would you be willing to outsource more city services like has been done with graffiti abatement? And for this one, we're going to start with Omar.
Thank you. That's unfortunately, that's an absolutely no. Our city employees are services to the city of San Jose. They clean our parks. They staff our libraries. There are police officers. There are firefighters. Public employees are not public enemy number one. I've been a city employee serving in numerous departments, especially being bounced around during the terrible pension reform fight that we've had. And not only that, that debate has caused many of our folks to flee our city of San Jose, and we have vacancy rates all the way high as to 30% in some areas. Firefighters, dangerously understaffed. And there's no proof that it reduces the cost, because we're talking about human lives. We're talking about keeping our city employees in the city of San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hear from Elizabeth, please.
I'm not sure I quite understand the question. Omar seems to think that outsourcing is displacing the current workers. Since the question was not specific, I will kind of bring out examples. I'm not for displacing any city workers. The ones that I contact with, I find them to be a really hardworking, informative group that has the hearts in the right place serving San Jose. But I do think there are places where the city may benefit by adding some supplemental services. I've been on the San Jose Downtown Association. Their PBIC is in charge of beautification and cleanup of San Jose. They're going to be adding social ambassador to bridge the unhoused and the other resources in the downtown area. I do not think they're displacing anyone, but I do think, examples such as PBIC tells me that there's room for collaboration to bring a better, cleaner, safer San Jose.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And Omar, would you like to rebut this?
Absolutely. When we talk about outsourcing in government, we talk about privatizing government. And again, public employees are not our scapegoats. They are our city librarians. They are our police officers, okay? It definitely costs more money to privatize and become non-public employee government. So outsourcing means laying off folks, means contracting to private individuals or companies.
Thank you. Joanna, would you respond to this question?
Sure, thank you. So I agree with candidate Omar Torres that we should make sure that our city workers are fully staffed and doing the work that keeps our city clean. Graffiti abatement is an important part of not just keeping our downtown centers revitalized, but also mitigating crime, keeping our spaces safe. That said, I do think we need to take full advantage of all resources at our fingertips. If we don't have the staff available, we should be looking to fill those spaces however we can. The Downtown Association, for example, for which candidate Torres works, has been a really pivotal part of being that solution. I have been endorsed by Scott Nees, the president of the Downtown Association. I really truly believe we need to be using all resources at our fingertips, and outsourcing is a last resort if the city can't fill those spots.
Thank you, Joanna. Ivan, your
Yeah,
response?
I would have to, I mean, I can see what Elizabeth is saying, but I have to agree with Joanna and Omar. I think that we have to make part of employing city workers is investing in our communities as well. I think outsourcing is just not the way to go.
Thank you. And Elizabeth, did you want to rebut Joanna or Ivan?
It's not a rebuttal, it's a clarification. I mean, outsourcing, if you look at it, is very commonly done. Terms takes on different meanings. Omar is probably presenting one meaning, maybe it comes with some history. But I think I just want to make sure my point is not misunderstood. I'm not talking about displacing city workers by outsourced workers. I'm talking about like San Jose Downtown Association, where I'm a board member, and I see they're doing a lot of good work to supplement what the city is doing.
Okay, thank you. And Irene, your comments on this question.
Thank you. I think that we can differentiate between a task and a job. I don't think we should be outsourcing jobs, but if there's a specific task, like what our PBID organization offers in terms of some of the cleaning services, then I think we can talk about tasks. But to address the specific issue about outsourcing jobs from employees in San Jose, I'm not in agreement with that. And in fact, I think that we have a great brain drain in San Jose. We're losing staff hand over fist because we're understaffed. It's too much work. And they're leaving and going to Santa Clara. They're going to Stockton because they're getting better pay and because they don't have to be inundated with taking on so many different work and job offers. So I would like to not outsource, but tasks I think we can look at individually.
Thank you. Omar, I'm going to say you still have your hand up, but you did have your opportunity to rebuttal. So going on to our next question. And actually we have a question that's very close to what you were just commenting on. And that is the one about the small numbers of police and fire departments for a city of this size. And how would you plan to keep workers from leaving our cities? So it really feeds right back into what Irene was saying. So Irene, you get to go first in answering this one.
Thank you. Well, as a pro tem judge and an administrative hearing officer for Santa Clara County, the importance of laws and enforcing them are paramount. We know that safety and crime is a big issue in D3, and a lot of us don't feel safe in our parks, walking on the streets, jogging. So we need to enforce our laws, and the police right now are so stretched that they're really only focused on violent crimes. And we in downtown are suffering from illegal dumping, and people aren't stopping at stop signs. We have sideshows. So I think we need to immediately return to appropriate staffing levels for both the police and for code enforcement. And we need to reprioritize our calls for service so that the police get police calls, code enforcement gets code enforcement calls, and vehicle abatement gets vehicle abatement calls.
Thank you. And Ivan, would you like to respond to that one?
Sure. I think when it comes to public safety, it's not just all about a bigger police presence. Whenever there's an uptick in crime, we have to figure out what is going on. Why is it occurring, basically? And whenever there is more homelessness, mental health, or crime, it's a clear indicator that our communities are lacking something. So I'm all for, beefing up the police presence, but we also have to make investments in our own communities as well.
Mhm. Right. Thank you, Ivan. Elizabeth?
The national average for police force per 1,000 residents, 2.4. San Jose is at 1, and therefore it's indisputable that we have already probably went through the phase of kind of reducing police force. We're not talking about that right now. I know the city has passed a budget, so we're in the process of building up police force again. We allocated money for 15 new ones, and that will continue for the years to come. At the same time, I do think a lot of tasks which are kind of parceled out to the police force, such as mental illness related or kind of vehicle abatement. So I think the city needs to do outreach so people know where to call. The 311 is for garbage, anti-dumping, graffiti, trash, and the 988, which will be implemented soon, is for mental health illnesses. And the police should return to its core duty of guarding the city's safety and properties and the more violent crimes.
Thank you. Joanna?
Thank you very much. So I should note I've been endorsed by the Police Officers Association unanimously. Public safety is paramount to me and my family and community at large. So I've spoken with leadership at the Police Officers Association, and I understand from them that really recruitment is very, very difficult right now. We're not recruiting enough new officers to keep up with regular attrition rates, just as a result of retirement and folks coming up through the ranks and moving on as they naturally would. So we really have to focus on recruitment. Cost of living in San Jose is very high. It's very difficult to keep young officers in our neighborhoods. It's very difficult to keep enough people on the force, maturing in the force so that they can go on to doing community policing, becoming truly members of the communities that they serve, reflecting the community values that they serve. We do have to invest in local business so we can generate the revenues necessary to reinvest in our police force.
Thank you. Omar?
Yes, thank you. Now is the time to radically increase and improve our community with our police officers. So we need to work hand in hand with our police officers. We need to make sure that we have foot patrols, not only in our merchant corridors, but also in our neighborhoods. But we also need to make sure that we have more violence intervention and prevention programs helping our youth and helping our families. As your council member, I will work with our police department. I'm not going to work against them because I know that they are dangerously understaffed. And for over 10 years, most of our police officers have been underpaid, overwhelmed, overworked, and they do not deserve it. Neither do our neighborhoods. We need cleaner and safer neighborhoods, and we must work with our police department to make it happen.
Thank you very much. Our next question goes back to the homeless issues. Homeless housing continues to be built in the same parts of the city, like in District 3. What can or would you do to require that more homeless housing is built in other districts so that not all housing developments are concentrated in District 3? And for this one, let's start with Joanna.
Thank you so much. So I agree, District 3 and District 7 do have a lot of the burden in terms of housing solutions for our homeless. And we do need to make sure that the rest of our city and the county are pulling their equal share of the weight here. This is what I do for a living. It's my job to bring people and organizations together, even when they come to the table kicking and screaming, to really convince them to be part of the solution. this is this is not a task for a blunt force instrument. This is not something that can be solved with bullying. This is a really specific skill set. This is a really specific surgical process of negotiating. This is my expertise, and it's really why I'm running for city council, because I think that this is the exact skill that we need right now in our leadership.
Thank you, Joanna. Irene, would you address this one?
Yes, thank you. So I have been a housing provider of rent-controlled units and a housing expert for about 33 years. So what concerns me right now is that we have a siting policy in San Jose that sounds wonderful. It is, the stated objective is to equally distribute affordable housing throughout all of San Jose, so that the affordable housing can take advantage of resource-rich areas throughout all of San Jose. But what's actually started to happen is that the siting policy has been put to the side. So if we can focus on the actual intent and the way that we're supposed to be distributing housing, then we can have it equalized out throughout San Jose and not concentrated where we've seen problems happen before.
Right. Thank you very much, Irene. Omar, your comments, please.
Yes, I think I wholeheartedly agree that we need to spread the love in our city of San Jose. We definitely need to make sure that we're building affordable housing throughout our city, especially in transportation corridors. That's extremely, extremely important. However, when it comes to building affordable housing in our neighborhoods, when we have to, I'm a community organizer. I have brought people together to talk about this issue. It's a concern. We cannot continue to talk about housing our unhoused without talking about affordable housing. And so if we are going to build in District 3, I will make sure to work with all stakeholders, bring them to the table, because that's what I've done for over 25 years. I have built affordable housing in the Guadalupe, Washington neighborhood Guadalupe, Washington area, with both from affordable housing nonprofits to even market rate housing. And we work together to make that happen as a community.
Thank you very much. Ivan?
Sure, yeah, I agree with candidate Joanna. I think that it should be spread and equal. The problem with it is that people see it as a burden, taking in affordable housing or public housing, whatnot. When it comes to the unhoused crisis, we all want it to be resolved. And at the end, that's the end goal, is to resolve homelessness. And that is something that would benefit all of us, no matter what district you live in.
Thank you, Ivan. Elizabeth?
Yeah, I've been canvassing all the District 3, all the neighborhoods, and it's definitely an issue that's being brought up by many of neighborhoods in District 3, because we seem to be shouldering a large share of the burden comparing with the rest of the districts. That's partly because we're resource rich, especially in the downtown area. We are ready for high density, and we have the charitable organization, which seems to be doing a lot of charitable work for the unhoused, and therefore naturally, these things tend to be centered around here. I'm definitely for equitable distribution. I think the problem will not go away until every district takes its share of the burden. Just because we're resource rich doesn't mean we need to take disproportionately our burden. And to a larger extent, I think the Santa Clara County issue, because I think San Jose, in comparing with our neighboring cities, also taking a larger share of the burden. I hope the county and the city and all the agencies will get together and form a task and deal with this problem head on equitably.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Our next question is a little different. What, if you are elected to the position of District 3 council member, what kind of action will your constituents see from you in your first 100 days of office? And for this one, let's start with Ivan.
Sure, yeah, first 100 days will definitely be hit the ground running with housing, hit the ground running with education, and really trying to implement a lot of policies that would address economic inequality in the city of San Jose, including rent control. And that would probably be my first 100 days.
Right. Thank you. Irene, what would you do in your first 100 days?
Well, I would like to implement the incremental ladder of housing success, and starting with the step-by-step process where we help folks move over to the destination locations. That's part one. Part two is keep families housed and work on the prevention end of things and use our own San Jose voucher plan instead of waiting for the federal government to come in and rescue us. My sister has Section 8, but it took her 12 years. So I think San Jose can do better than that. And I think also we need to make it much easier to build. If we're going to work on the supply side of this problem, we have to make it easier to build. So we have to streamline the permit process and start seeing the actual building. We've approved building. Every time we open the newspaper, we see more buildings that have been approved, but you don't see the cranes. So what's happening? Why can't we get that housing built so we can make more affordable housing?
Thank you, Irene. Joanna?
Thank you so much. So just to quickly note, the city of San Jose actually has a housing voucher program separate from Section 8. It has for about a decade now, and the county also has its own separate voucher program specifically for families, just to note. As soon as I'm in office, homelessness is the very first priority. We have to start making better use of the resources that we already have. We have to start working more effectively. Our advocates on the ground have to be connected to the resources that we have. Again, it should be as easy for an advocate to book a shelter bed as it is to book an Airbnb. We need to focus strategically on enforcement in important public spaces. We have to make sure that our businesses can thrive so that we can generate the revenue necessary to pay for these services. And we have to continue to activate our rapid build program, build more housing, and make sure that we can deploy the county services in a place for our people to be. That is absolutely key.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
There are some, I mentioned that I think the foundational blocks for our city going forward will have to be economic development and education. But these are foundation issues. I can start initiating some of the programs I have in mind, for example, building up our libraries, more online training for students, and then invite more mature tech companies or building our own startups. That's to kind of boost the economy so we can have the revenue to deal with some of our social issues, which are immediate. And I think in my first 100 days, I will immediately form a homeless task force. And that I'm kind of surprised that we don't have one, because it's such a multi-party, multi-pronged approach to this very complicated problem, which is going back at least 8 years to the last contested D3 res. It's only risen and become more prominent. And we need to get all the parties together. We have a lot of solutions which have been deployed. We need to talk to the stakeholders, take an inventory of what we've done, making sure the money is spent where they should be spent.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And Irene, would you like to rebut something?
Yes. So with the voucher program, I know it's really complicated because Section 8 is exceptionally complicated, but we have a wonderful opportunity here. We do have rapid rehousing, and that has a voucher program, but that really is short term. It lasts only 2 years. What I'm talking about is a much longer program to really prevent homelessness and help families stay housed.
Thank you, Irene. Let's see, Omar, we haven't heard from you on this one.
Yes, I thought you were going to ignore me there for a bit.
Oh, no, no.
The next council member has to hit the ground running, and it's public safety, housing, especially production and housing our unhoused, economic development. Those are the main issues that are facing District 3. And they all intertwine, right? They all intertwine. If we don't have enough cops and services for our youth, then we don't have safe neighborhoods. If we do not have enough housing for our unhoused, then we don't have safe neighborhoods. If we do not have safe neighborhoods, unfortunately, then we don't have safe business districts. We just we don't, that all intertwines. And so again, the next council member cannot be on training wheels. For over 25 years, I have created solutions for all of these concerns. The city of San Jose is at a crossroads, and we need experienced leadership to tackle these concerns.
Thank you. The next question. With the increase of hit and run accidents and pedestrian fatalities, how do you suggest we improve the enforcement and safety in your council district? And for this one, let's start with Irene.
Thank you. Let's see. I think that, when I decided to move to downtown, I was focused on the diversity that it brought. And as a mom, able to bring that kind of opportunity of diversity to my daughter was a wonderful opportunity. But now we have to be, just as a mom has to be accountable, we have to be accountable to the folks who are using our streets, either as bicyclists or pedestrians or as motorists. And our accidents have skyrocketed. So how do we actually approach that problem? And I think it goes back to my plan for working with the police and making sure we have community officers, we can use license plate readers, and we can use the police to do the enforcement as well. But it's going to take a diverse solution to make sure that we're following the laws and prevent deaths.
Thank you. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yeah, traffic and fatality is definitely one of the top issues. When I talk to residents, I would say a good 70% complain about traffic problems, traffic being too fast. The bike lanes are confusing. The bike lanes are not entered into DMV. They don't know how to deal with it. And so there are several solutions. I mean, they told me all, you can put in speed bumps. That's a popular one because it's easy. Or you can put on monitors, digital monitors, so the cars know how fast you're driving. Or you can put on cameras at intersections, so the speeder will get a ticket immediately if the penalty is high enough, and they will stop quickly. But I see the underlying problem is also, I spoke to a traffic engineer who used to work for the city. Part of the process of changing, making any of these changes is very laborious and long. So we're probably going to the city, streamlining the process, figuring out how we can fast track this problem because it's becoming a really high concern for most residents in D3.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Ivan?
Yeah, part of the safety would be including stop signs, traffic lights, ensuring our bike lanes are safe. I do agree with Elizabeth, cameras as well as on our traffic lights. I think we might have to reassess even speed limits in certain neighborhoods. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to approach the situation.
Thank you. Omar?
Absolutely. Traffic calming measures is near and dear to my heart. I went to Washington Elementary School where I had to dash across the street from Vine onto South Almaden, from South Almaden to the campus. If you haven't lived in the city of San Jose for over 30 years, the 87 didn't exist. Vine Street and South Almaden were Highway 87 of our time. And it was unfortunate because there was so many accidents. And so we need to put more funding into Vision Zero because it is sad that we have at least over 3 pedestrian deaths a month. That's unfortunate. Traffic calming measures is public safety. I've helped bring crosswalks, stop sign, bike lanes, not only as a neighborhood organizer, but as a school board member as well. It is near and dear to my heart, and kids and everybody deserves to walk in a safe neighborhood.
Thank you. And Joanne, we'd like to hear from you too.
Thank you so much. So traffic calming is absolutely paramount to our safety as a community. The fastest and least expensive thing that we can do is install speed humps. They do not require the same kind of surveys and expensive processes that other things, even like stop signs, require. So we should absolutely be investing in speed humps. But I would also like to focus on the need for additional police. Again, I was endorsed by the Police Officers Association, and the long and the short of it is we don't have enough police officers for a community of our size. San Francisco has twice the amount of police officers by comparison for several 100,000 fewer residents. We need to fix that. We also need to make sure that our police officers have the time and resources to allocate to these traffic incidents. We have to stop the revolving door of repeat offenders coming in and out of jails, and we have to get our arms around homelessness so our police can stop spending 1/3 of their calls on homeless related issues and getting back to keeping our public communities safe.
Thank you. Our next question is, because the city is spending so much money as well as resources on the homeless crisis, which we've been referring to, there's been a real decline in city services that improve the lives of all residents, both housed and unhoused. What would you do to improve city services such as code enforcements, illegal dumping, and illegal parking enforcement? And some of you have mentioned some of these issues, so here's an opportunity to directly respond to this question. And let's start with, let's see, Ivan, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so we would have fines for illegal dumping. And we would also, I mean, if we have to go receive the state funding, then that's what we do. I mean, I know that homelessness is costing the city a whole lot of money, and we probably aren't spending it in the manner that we should. It's not as effective. I think when it comes down to it, I think it comes down to housing, and it comes down to ensuring that people have the means of it, basically being able to thrive and prosper, and not, you know, everything else that comes with that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna?
Thank you so much. So one of the challenges that we face is affordability, right? A lot of people who work for our city can't afford to live here in the city that they serve. They're commuting hours a day to get to and from their jobs, and this is a real problem. So we have got to work on affordability, invest in development of housing, strategic infill, to make sure that there's a place for the people who serve our community to truly be a part of our community. That is absolutely paramount. We have also, as I mentioned, got to work on staffing up our police and making sure that our city resources are fully staffed. That might mean investigating incentive programs to get people here. We are experiencing extreme attrition, particularly in outreach positions. Let's investigate creative housing solutions to bring these specialists back into our community to serve the people who so desperately need their support.
Irene?
Yes, thank you. So as I said before, I think we really have an opportunity to make sure that the police aren't just fielding calls from vehicle abatement and from code enforcement, because then we can be more efficient and more effective with our police force. I think we can also increase our community police officers and be more effective. And I think a lot of our expense is just not allocated correctly. We're not looking at the goals and the results that each department has to bring forth. I meet monthly with Captain Acosta to talk about what's happening in D3 and what are the next problems. I just spoke with him today about Pakesto Park and the parking problems and the issues there. So I think we can be more effective, especially with how we're using the police, and that money then will be reallocated to where we need it most in the city.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Yes, I served on the appeals hearing board, so we were adjudicating cases that come from a resident with respect to code enforcement decisions. So a lot of the problems were mentioned here, the illegal dumping, the weed abatement, vehicle abatement, all of these really belong to code enforcement. So, and I recently spoke to somebody in code enforcement. They were very short-handed, and they were told because of pandemic and other things that they were scaling back on vehicle abatement. So only the extreme cases will get immediate attention. The rest, and I confirmed by residents that their vehicles which are parked on the street for a lot longer than they should have, whereas before. So there's no structural problems. The code enforcement is a reactive organization, so they only react to complaints. That's one problem. We probably should make them more kind of proactive. And the other thing is going back to affordability, retention of city staff, these very hardworking people. How can we build enough housing to make sure they can feel comfortable and short distance commute to continue to serve San Jose?
Thank you. Thank you. Omar.
First, I definitely want to thank our city employees who may be on this call. They work more with less resources. This city has not recovered since the pension reform fight 10 years ago. And when we talk about keeping and retaining our city staff here, well, planning and building help build housing. There's a 27% vacancy rate. So when we also talk about building affordable housing, we're not just talking about our unhoused, we're talking about our essential city employees who are the middle class and deserve to stay here. That's their livelihood. They serve you with dignity and passion. Those who serve you should stay here and should live here.
Thank you. Interestingly, we had a question submitted late that has to deal with something that you've all just addressed, and that's the expense of housing, especially for our local people who are working for the city, for the county, and doing much of the work we've been describing. Next question, and this one is, let's see, let's do back. I'm going to ask you this one. While serving as a city council person for San Jose, what regional boards would you like to serve on representing the city? How would you participate and to increase our city's ability to address issues important to us and to the residents of San Jose? So for this one, let's have Elizabeth go first.
Well, there are many boards that I would like to serve on, but I'll just mention one that's very dear to me and I've been serving on. I would like to serve on the VTA board because they're under a major infrastructure building right now was a BART extension #2. And I think the importance of that cannot be overstated. And most people have not realized we're not talking about just connecting the cities so we can use Oakland Airport and San Francisco Airport in addition to Manhattan. We're talking about that's a solution for housing also. We're going to open up the Bay Area and all the other kind of less expensive housing. If we have good transportation, we will be able to utilize that. That will solve some of the affordable housing issues that we discussed in addition to other options that we already discussed, which is building more, using more transit corridors. So yeah, I think transportation is key and not just the big infrastructure builders, but also the local connectivity. I would like to continue serving and contribute in that area.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Irene?
Well, I'd like to be on anything that is involved in housing and use my expertise in that area. I recognize that the county is responsible for our mental health, but in conjunction with that, we have the MCAT police force, which is the mental health arm of the police. And I've actually spent some time going on calls with them, and I've seen how they work and operate and actually diffuse some serious situations and actually, avoid arrests. So I'd like to see where else I can use that experience. I'm on the board for Sentencing's Alternatives, which is several judges who we take cases from other courts and we try and keep people out of prison by offering alternatives. So those are the kinds of things that would interest me in going into City Hall.
Thank you. Omar.
Well, definitely VTA. BART is coming to downtown San Jose, and we need a council member who knows the ins and outs of VTA. It's a massive and necessary project for the future of our downtown. And community engagement is key to making sure that our small businesses and our residents are not being displaced with this massive public transportation project. And already we're hearing it. I know that Joanna Rao got endorsed by my boss from the San Jose Downtown Association, but I have been thick in the weeds with small businesses already concerned about the massive project coming down Alum Rock and Santa Clara Street. And I've worked with these businesses from downtown to the east side to make sure that VTA is protecting them and not displacing them. As we want to revitalize our city, we cannot let that happen.
Thank you. Joanna.
Sure, thank you so much. Well, VTA is a popular one. I would also really enjoy being on the VTA. I think it's really important that the representative for VTA has experienced a lot of different public transportation systems. I've lived in a lot of big cities in my life, both in the US and abroad. I've experienced the Big Dig for 3 years in Boston. I lived right next to it. And I don't want that to happen to Omar's point to us. We really do, I fully agree, need to ensure that our small businesses are protected from disruption, and that we do prioritize getting this done as quickly and as effectively as possible to make sure that these businesses can remain intact. I'd also love to work on the Sports Authority, really without generating the means for people to get here and the reason for people to get here. We won't be generating the revenues that are so necessary to doing all of these other things we've been talking about and providing these services to solve our most pernicious problems.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ivan?
Sure, I think the VTA is definitely a popular board to be on, so I definitely agree with that, as well as the Housing and Community Development Board. That would be great. And I think any board that has to do with education as well for individuals, especially lower income individuals. So there's really so many different boards to be on, but I think those would be like my top 3.
Thank you, Ivan. Rebecca, would you like to rebut something? You have your hand up.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth. Yes. But I don't know if it's a rebuttal, but I just want to say that the design of the VTA, that 5-mile extension, is being studied extensively between 2016 to 2018. And I think they ended up with that single bore, 50 deep design, which is a lot more expensive and causing probably cause extra delay because they want to minimize the displacement issue that that we just mentioned. And that will cause a lot less, that kind of minimize the access problem to the business and the utility relocations, a number of things. So they are trying.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Our next question is the following. How would you go about collaborating or working with the county advocating for increased behavioral health services for our unhoused individuals residing in District 3? And for this one, let's have, I go back to my list. I need to be fair about who I have start. And Ivan, you get to start on this one.
Sure. I mean, mental health is a huge issue in San Jose, and we'd have to work with the county to ensure that we have more mental health facilities available, more mental health services. And like homelessness, mental health is something that affects everybody. We can all here right now recall moments where we saw someone who was mentally ill, clearly, and needed help. So I think, once again, the end goal is to address this issue and understand that it's going to benefit everyone in the long run.
Thank you. Irene?
Thank you. As a mental health professional, I worked at a hospital that was on Santa Clara Street, and unfortunately it was torn down. But it was a triple door locked facility for children who had severe mental illness. So unfortunately, I do see some of that out on the street. And I think when we think about working with the county, we have to talk about facilities and our great loss of Agnews, which can be replaced. I know that there are lots of plans in place. Currently, we have the MCAT police working one-on-one with therapists from the county. Oftentimes they can go out on calls together. So I think I'd like to see a lot more of those kind of programs where we're actively working with the county, employees with employees together to make those solutions.
Thank you. Omar?
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. I think it's extremely important that we recognize the hard work our county employees have been doing with working with our unhoused when it comes to mental health issues already. So we need to solidify that relationship. It takes all of us to help our unhoused, especially those with mental health issues. And as a matter of fact, as many of you all know, the county has actually done an incredible job making sure that we have permanent supportive housing for folks who have a mental health issue and are unhoused. I ran a local nonprofit where I worked with our unhoused with mental health issues. And it was very sad what they were going through. But again, I made sure to work with nonprofit providers and our county to make sure that they get the services they need, because they need it so we can have cleaner and safer neighborhoods.
Thank you, Omar. Elizabeth?
Yeah, the city and county need to collaborate on a number of issues, but I think homelessness is the most urgent one. I know the federal is providing money for building, the city's building, the county is providing mental health services, which has been proven to be a big part of the homeless problems. So this is where I think my background as a lawyer really comes in. I haven't talked much about, I have over 20 years experience serving as a lawyer. Negotiation is part of my daily life. And so I will use those diplomacy skills to work. And furthermore, the county now has some new tools. Now they have Lawyers Law. It was passed early by the state. Santa Clara County recently passed it. They also declared a mental health emergency. So I think these are great resources we can leverage from the county to make sure they do their fair share of the job in that respect, so we can together solve the homelessness issue as much as possible.
Thank you. Joanna?
Thank you so much. Yes, as Elizabeth just mentioned, under the leadership of Supervisor Ellenberg, the Board of Supervisors has just declared mental illness and substance use disorders a public health crisis. So the board right now is fully engaged in advocating to expand workforce, building more shelter and expanding mental health and substance use services. That would include anything from locked inpatient, partial hospitalization, and day programs, substance treatment and outpatient care. These are really imperative services that we rely on the county to provide. So the city can lead by example. We can continue our rapid build interim housing so that there's a place for people to be while the county deploys its essential wraparound services. We should absolutely be working in partnership with the county. This is what I do every day and have been doing for the last 15 years, building these collaborative teams in order to solve mutual problems for shared solutions.
Right, right. Thank you. And this was our last group question. And we're going to be closing in just a moment. And while we wait for our closing slide to come up, I just want to thank all of you. I think District 3 is extremely fortunate not only to have all 5 of you running for this position, but to be coming to it with so much experience. I am just amazed at what I've heard from all of you this evening. And it's very encouraging as a city, a person that lives in San Jose, went to Lincoln, Omar, a little bit before you, but I'm definitely—
Lions.
Right. I'm definitely a local person. And so I've appreciated, and I actually do remember that hospital, Irene, on Santa Clara that served the community so well for so many years.
Oh, Rosalind, excuse me. Are we going to have closing statements?
Oh, I'm making a closing statement and you're not. Right. Okay. And that's why we were waiting for the slide, because you do get to have the last word. So for this, we'll start with Elizabeth, and we will each have your closing time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, League of Women Voters and other organizers, for this opportunity to give me the chance to speak to the audience tonight about why I'm running for a seat on the San Jose City Council. I came to the United States at age 13 with my family in search of American dream. I worked hard, and with good public school education, UC Berkeley, I landed a job in the tech sector, and this is where I stayed for the past decades. Since moving to San Jose, I've been heavily involved in community work. As the president of San Jose Downtown Resident Association, I informed and engaged the downtown resident on issues such as transportation, homelessness, recycling, redistricting. I also sat on appeals hearing board, adjudicating cases relating to blight and safety. I'm running to share my vision of San Jose with the other downtown and D3 residents, a clean, safe, and diverse city where every group feels welcome and supported by a growing and vibrant economy in D3 and beyond. So I am very honored that my economic plan has received endorsement of the State Commissioner of Economic Development. And as a lawyer, I'm very honored to have the support and endorsement of many colleagues in leadership positions in the American Bar Association. I thank you for the opportunity. Goodness.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. Omar?
Great, thank you. So we need to fix City Hall for you. I want fully staffed firehouses because we love our firefighters. I want our city librarians to make sure they're reading to your kids because we love our librarians and our libraries, of course. I want to work with you to make sure that we have safe and clean parks and trails. And I see some of our Nagley Park median buddies on here, clean medians in Nagley Park. I want our San Jose Police Department to work with our neighbors for safer neighborhoods. I want a thriving downtown. We're gonna have tough conversations in the next few years, and we're gonna find those solutions by coming together and working together. San Jose is at a crossroads, and we need somebody who's experienced, and we need somebody who's been doing it for over 25 years. And again, together we can, you, me, us.
Thank you, Omar. Joanna?
Thank you. I'd like to add my 30 seconds to my closing statement, please.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I'm running to be the next council member for District 3 because I'm a working mom with 3 small kids who have their entire childhoods ahead of them in District 3. And I want a clean, safe, and fun San Jose for my kids and my community. We have a lot of complicated problems here and in San Jose as a whole, and none of those problems can be solved in a silo. I've spent the last 15 years of my career as a professional negotiator, bringing people and organizations together to solve complicated problems. I've been endorsed by the Mercury News, the Police Officers Association, the League of Conservation Voters, Mayor Liccardo, every woman on the Valley Water District Board, and Ravel, the former federal elections commissioner, and local business leaders like Scott Nees of the Downtown Association and Mauricio Mejia of the Music in the Park. This broad support proves that I can bridge divides and bring people together from all interests and perspectives. I'll bring my proven skills and experience to City Hall so we can address the biggest issues facing our district. I'm the only candidate with a demonstrated ability to get everyone to start pulling together. My family immigrated to San Jose over 100 years ago. I have a legacy in San Jose. All of my grandmother and my aunts have been small business owners here, and I carry their legacy with me. Change does start here in District 3.
Thank you very much. Ivan?
Sure.
Oh, thank you.
I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's been an incredible experience. I am running because as a San Jose native, as a District 3 native, I want what's best for my community. And I want people to see that I am one of them. And my only hope is that the right candidate is chosen and elected. And I think that together we can make huge differences and change the future of San Jose. I want to say really briefly that it's been such a huge honor to be on the ballot with 3 incredible, strong, intelligent women. And I'm super proud of the District 3 ballot, and I wouldn't want to be on any other ballot. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivan. Irene?
Thank you. At the beginning of this forum, I asked everyone to consider who has real plans for real change. I know it's easy to get disillusioned and bogged down, and sometimes it's easier to be on your cell phone while you're listening to politicians talk. But we have an opportunity for real hope and change in D3. We can make D3 the gem of San Jose. We're surrounded by all of these problems. We see them day in and day out. But the truth is, we can fix it, and we can fix it sooner than later together. So, you know, I just see that we have this opportunity, and I'm so hopeful that we can do it together in a way that is going to be a lot faster than it's happening right now, because we have to decide which way we're going to move. Are we going to move forward, away from the past, or are we going to move back? Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. And once again, thank all of you for participating this evening and for running for District 3's council person. Right, it's been a pleasure. And we will close now in just a moment.
In just a minute, yes. Sorry.
No, no problem. We just need to bring the slides up, and our timer will be doing that for us.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
A pleasure.
It's just a pleasure to meet all of you, even if
Night.
it is through Zoom.
Good night. Good night.
Yes, right. It's been lovely.
Bye,
Yes,
everyone.
Right.
thank you very, very much. Yes. I want to thank Rosaline for hosting this forum tonight. Whoops, gotta open my window here. And I also want to thank all of the candidates for showing up tonight. This is just fantastic. I thought it was an excellent forum, and I think we learned a lot. I would like to note some basic dates about this election on June the 7th. In about 2 weeks, the registrar of voters will start mailing the paper ballots to all registered voters. You have several options for returning the ballot. You can just put it in the envelope and mail it, or you can find a drop box near you and deposit the envelope there, or you can return it to a vote center where you can do lots of things. In addition to just voting, you can even register to vote the very last day. Go to sccvote.org, and you're going to find lots of great information about voting and how and what happens on election day. Again, we remind you to go to votersedge.org to find information on all the races on your ballot. For example, what about all the state executive contests? Who's running for the Secretary of State and State Controller? The recording from tonight's event is going to be posted on the Voters Edge page for the City Council District 3 for those who could not attend, or if you just want to listen again. You can usually find ways to contact each candidate via email if you want to ask more questions of them. And please note that information gets added to Voters Edge periodically up until the day before the election, so check back often. And also check easyvoter.org. There's a 4-page pamphlet available in 5 different languages with clear descriptions of how to vote in California, and also some information about the statewide offices on your ballot. There are other candidates forums coming up. The leagues in Santa Clara County are producing these. It's not too late to register. You can go to our website at lwvsjsc.org and you can register at them. Again, we hope that the insights you've gained from this forum tonight will aid you in making your decision. So please vote on or before June the 7th. Thank you so much for attending tonight, and a large thank you to our candidates for their answers and comments to help all of us decide which candidate best reflects our values. Good night to all.